sometimes it's when you're by yourself, it's easier to navigate and negotiate time than when you're with your best buddy, my 3-year-old grandson here, Adi Shola. This is my best buddy, my main man. All right.
So Danny needs no introduction, I'm sure, to all of you, but he's here with his wonderful film, Bamako. I'll start the ball rolling, and then, of course, we'll open the floor to questions. Danny, tell us a little bit about the genesis of the project and how it dovetails with your personal interests.
I met Adira Mansasako, the director, Bamako, at a film festival. We were both on the jury. The film festival in Amiens, Jean-Pierre Garcia's film festival of international film, and I had seen an earlier film that he directed, Waiting for Happiness, and I was really moved by his form, his technique, his non-lyrical, almost non-traditional style of directing, and we talked about possible projects that he was doing, and he described, just in very, I guess, very general terms, his situation, how he grew up in Bamako. His father is Malian, his mother is Mauritanian, and so he said he lived in a courtyard where there was always 25 people in there, that courtyard, and even today, he said there were 25 people living there. And these men and women and children who had been displaced, migrants, some were unemployed, some were students, some were workers, and some were not even from Mali, but this was a courtyard in which he grew up in. So he wanted to do something about these people, these various strands of community that coexisted, and then talk about one of the, I guess, primary issues on the continent and in the global south right now, the issue around debt, the growing debt, the growing inequality, the growing disparity between incomes, between those who are rich and those who are poor in the global south.
Please welcome with me a man who needs very little introduction, the executive producer of the film, Danny Glover.
When 40 years ago, as a student in San Francisco State College, I read a book by Julius Nyerere, African Socialism, that talked about a different way of looking at development. One that was embraced not only the past, the present, but also the future. I was very moved by that, whether it's the work of Kwame Nkrumah, the work of Julius Nyerere, Ken Kwanda, or Amit Suber, or Leopold Senghor, or Sekou Toure, the first wave, and even a young Nelson Mandela, the first wave of people who began to shape the ideas around nationhood and identity. But now, as we've seen that the neoliberal paradigm has failed, as we see in other places in the global south, particularly in Latin America, another kind of image, another kind of imagination of what economic relationship has come into being, is given breath to. We need to look at that, but the most important is that we need to look at it here in the global north. The people in the global south are doing that. This film is a testimony of that. The organizing that's happening around the issues around the debt, the organizing that's happening in civil society in those countries. We need to look at that, and we need to play our role in that. This film is only a testimony to the possibility that allows us to see what's happening, but allows us to find our role and to be a part of the problem, and not a part of the solution, and not the problem. Thank you. Bamako becomes part of the dialogue that's happening in the global south and a part of that's happening in the global north as well.
where men and women are able to provide testimony to their own experience. As they are displaced and they are marginalized and disenfranchised by the structural violence that happens, it means the decisions are made without them having any input, without them having any say. The governments on a national level and sovereignty to some extent have collapsed to some degree. These decisions overwhelm the country, overwhelm the citizens, and place them in a perilous position. That situation which we exist right now. The film draws attention to that. We have to take the initiative right now. And so that initiative which we lost was somewhat subverted, we have to recapture that at this particular moment in time. And there are many actors in it, many people have been involved in that, you know. Certainly we could look at Noam Chomsky, we could look at Walden Bello from the Philippines, and the role that he's played in trying to articulate what is happening in the global South. To understand in terms of Walden and trying to articulate what is happening in the Philippines, not only in relationship to Filipino history and the conquest that occurred, but also in relationship to dictatorship, to failed democracies, etc., etc. So everyone's trying to articulate it, and why the income and wealth became more and more skewed, and why people become poorer and poorer. We talk about Noam Chomsky, we talk about Vandana Shiva, we talk about many other people, Walden Bellows. We talk about people who are in the quest, in the fight, and in the journey for justice. I mentioned Walden Bellows in this context because Walden has done so much work around this over the years, whether it's in the Philippines, but this work has not been directly connected to the Philippines. He's tried to describe, through his work, using the Philippines, describe the situation as a global manifestation and understand it as a global manifestation. The film adds, if I showed this film in the Philippines, I would get the same reaction. If I showed this film in the favelas in Brazil, I would get the same reaction. If I showed this film in New Orleans, in the lower night, people will respond to the film in a sense. So this is what's important about the identifying what are the issues that bring us together, what are the tenets that draw us together, and have us understand that we're fighting the same battle, whether that battle that we're fighting is in Louisiana, whether it's that battle we're fighting in Mali, Bamako, or whether that battle is fought in Manila in the Philippines.